What's up, guys? What is up? Welcome back to another episode of Deck Talk Podcast. And as you can see, Pappy is looking a little different today. And
Yeah.
so, no, I know everybody knows who our special co-host for the night. I'm just going to run quickly over this. The reason why. Um, Jerry is with us is because Pappy had a death in the family, and he it's more important for him to spend time with the family than it is for him to be on this podcast. So I just made a phone call, and as soon as I said that I needed him to come on the podcast, Jerry jumped at it and said, "Anything you need, brother, I'm there." So, guys, that is the reason why we've got our good friend Jerry with us. But before I introduce our special guest for today, we got some business to attend to, guys. This episode is brought to you by Bruiser Baits, Firefly Outdoor Marine, YOLO Tech, Joe Burns Rods, Cornfield Fishing Gear, Spear Point Performance Hooks, Pro Line Baits. Guys, make sure you go to their websites and use the discount code DECKTALK10. All that product you are going to love. And I guarantee you will not be disappointed in any of that product, guys. But with that being said, this guy that we have as our special guest, I know everybody knows who he is. He is all over Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. And from the last time that he was on, he has made the jump to being a full-time content creator, in which us at Deck Talk Podcast cannot be prouder of him. It's always a joy to talk to. If you are wanting to learn stuff about baits and especially fishing Highland Reservoir, this is the man to ask. This is Hank with BassGeek. What is up, brother?
Not much, man. I got to be honest with you. I put out that video about selling the boat. Now I've not made the jump to full time yet. That was just a video about getting ready to. But yeah, we're ready to. We got all the ducks in a row. We're just going to try and make it through the winter time, because wintertime content can be such a fun, good time to make.
Yeah.
I always joke with some of my pro buddies, like I'll name drop a little bit, like Kyle Welcher and, Brandon Card. I'm like, you guys are sitting at home when it's cold. I'm out there with snow in the background up in the mountains trying to catch them,
Yeah. Oh, well, Brandon, he knows a little bit about fishing in the snow.
He does. I can't give him too much heck. He's been out. He's been out there doing it before. But
so how's life? I mean, it's been, I'd say, probably a year and a half since we had you on here.
Yeah.
So how's life been treating you and the family?
It's been good, man. There's been some weird stuff happening. I think we're pretty much on track to first of the year go ahead and officially make that leap.
Wow,
Dealing with the business side of things. That's what I've been doing all day. Boat trailers in the shop right now, so I don't know if I'm gonna get to fish my next 2 off days, which makes me always sad. But man, it's been good. You know how the fishing industry is. If you've got any plans of trying to do it for a living, you better love to grind. I mean, it's because that is what it is.
So, well, the thing is Jerry, what's the saying? If you want to be a millionaire in the fishing industry,
yeah. I think Jerry's muted.
Start with 3 million.
There you go.
Yeah, you want to be a millionaire? Start with 3 million. You'll get there.
Yeah.
That's why I'm trying to build this thing before I take that leap, so that I know I'm all right.
Yeah. One of the first times that I had ever talked to Jerry, this was about 6-7 years ago when I met Jerry, and we were talking about YouTube channels and the podcasts and stuff, and he's like, if you plan to be a millionaire, you better start. That's what he said. You need to have at least 3 million to get going.
That's a truth. That's a truth.
But I want to talk to you because about like how, for one, like how do you find, if you're, let's say you're going to a new body of water, and I want to like kind of focus in more on a highland reservoir. How do you go about finding fish in a highland reservoir? I mean, because I know I grew up being a river rat, and so a highland reservoir is kind of intimidating, and it can be intimidating to some anglers.
Well, I grew up fishing actually some pretty small lakes because I live right on the border, and most people know Bristol, Tennessee, Bristol, Virginia. So really, I live
Right.
in Virginia, and I grew up fishing some small lakes uh, on the Virginia side. They were, they were just smaller lakes, smaller versions of the bigger lakes like South Holston and Cherokee and Watauga and all those types of lakes. And
Right.
so I was lucky enough to kind of understand learn pretty quickly, out on my little green John boat with my little tiny Lowrance, grayscale. Because, I was trying to look for depth changes and brush and, creek channels and all that stuff way back in the day. And, hooked up to my car battery and my motor guide, trolling motors. So,
Yeah.
20, 30, 40 years ago, Lord God, I don't even know. But, and so for me, I always learned it's really about a few things, and it's really the same as any lake. Find that something different. If there's an S swing and it's got a long point on it, that's maybe got some rock and some stumps, like right now, the lakes up here, they drop them pretty significantly, right? And it starts in September.
Right.
So, I was thinking about this the other day. I was actually out on one of those small lakes that I grew up fishing. And it's pretty neat because what ends up happening right now, and really it starts in the end of August, as soon as those nights start to get colder, those bass start to move. We're in the fall transition in August, and so because as soon as that water temp consistently begins to slowly drop, those fish move. But what those shad do this time of year, from late August, is they stay around, the areas, I'll say, first half to midway to the creek. So we always hear, even on Highlands reservoirs, we always hear, hey, fish the main lake, fish the main lake. And there are fish in the main lake, but a lot of times, especially now that we've got things like side imaging, down imaging, 2D, I used to use it, 2D, either with grayscale or full color. I started to figure out that those shad kind of like the areas in those, whether it be that they were cooler or, for whatever reason, they tended to like what I call the first third of a creek. I'll break a creek down in thirds,
Yeah.
first third, middle third, back third. Some people do it in quarters. Either way, it works. And so while a lot of people fish on the main lake and those main lake points and bluffs and that sort of stuff, a lot of the good fish get really overlooked in those first thirds or even first halves of creeks. Mm-hmm. And, this time of year, as soon as that temperature starts dropping, those fish begin to migrate, whether it's all the way out to the front of the creek. And some of them, we actually got on a really interesting pattern about 2 years ago on a lake where we literally followed these huge schools of bass from this main river, kind of first third, 5 miles down to the actual dam where it's the deepest. And that was pretty incredible, and something that I would have never been able to do, whether you love it, whether you hate it. One of the things that I love about it is how much I'm learning from it, and without a forward-facing sonar.
Right.
But really, that's one of the things. Like, and I'd never really fished that particular lake over here a lot. And one of the very first things I did is I found in one of the major creeks a big S curve. It had a bay on one side, so a nice spawning area. Had a couple of spawning creeks on it, and since it's it's not a TVA lake, it's a Corps Engineers Lake. There's no docks and everything on it. It's a lot like Dale Hollow,
Right.
and
Right.
Which what this lake really reminds me of, the small Dale Hollow, kind of like Dale Hollow. Clarity meets Cumberland kind of canyon lake, because everything are big bluffs.
Yeah.
And so I know, having grown up fished, that the shad are going to spawn on hard areas. And what that normally means is bluff walls on these types of lakes. So these hard, rocky areas. And so that's kind of what I did, like the year before. Is I found this unusual looking area. I went out and I found, the shad, the large amounts of shad in that area. And, from there, it's just start breaking down what things are in that area and how they move. And, during the summer, they're going to stay in that area. And that's just how you do it. You just start fishing. Hey, there's a lay down over there. Hey, there's a stick up over there. Hey, this point's got a little different type of rock on it, and you just start breaking down those areas. Anything that's different, and that's what any pro will tell you that. I know.
Yeah. So do like you was talking about the spawn and stuff on hard bottoms and stuff like that, like on river system, and then like even like where Jerry is down in southern Florida, like they're going shallow. So on them Highland reservoirs, are they trying to go shallow, or will they spawn at 20-30 foot?
So bass, largemouth and smallmouth are a little bit different. Smallmouth, they're going to spawn at the edge, the true edge, and maybe even 5-10 feet below it, even up to 15. Now, I've seen largemouth. I have literally sight fished a largemouth in, I think it was 15 to 20 foot of water on a point that was on a bed one time. And, so the largemouth will spawn there. It really just depends on how much light can get there to incubate those eggs. Now, something that I've learned from fishing South Holston, which is predominantly a smallmouth, the smallmouth will spawn on main lake bluffs if it's not sheer straight up and down. If we've got some sort of 45 and there's some washouts and that sort of stuff. I mean, one of my best spots forever, until I showed it on my channel,
Mistake.
was a main lake bluff. And so a few years back, I put a video out this year, and like the first 4 bass we caught was in this creek, and it kind of blew my mind. Which I told my buddy, I said, "Man," I said, "if we go up here today and this wind is blowing in," and I said, "the smallmouth have just now, the males have just started moving up on the beds." And so smallmouth, I mean, they'll spawn on whatever rock they can get on. But the largemouth, they'll still like those pockets, those little do-nothing ditches, and they'll spawn on each side. They won't spawn right in the middle, because in case the rains come, it'll wash those eggs out. But they'll spawn right on each side of it. And they'll stage just out on the absolute most nothing before you go in. And I mean, we're talking about pockets. I got a Triton. I got a Camus CX20, and I mean, my boat is longer than the pockets are sometimes. And, they'll just sit outside, and we go down through there, and the wind's blowing and the lake's turning over. So it's got that real good tea color. And we start throwing an A-rig. And I mean, I am throwing an A-rig in the dirt and bringing it out. And within the first 3 foot, which means I'm probably 3 to 5 foot deep, we're getting hammered. And we're catching, the first 4 fish we catch are 16-pound largemouth, 16 pounds worth of largemouth on that lake, which is a 90% smallmouth lake,
Right.
And so, but we were catching them in those areas right before they move into those pockets of spawn on that steeper bank, maybe right around the tree, big as round as my arm or something. And so it really just depends. It depends on water clarity, how much they're raising or lowering the lake. That's something, especially during a spawn on a highlands reservoir, you better pay attention to how much they've raised the lake since that new moon, since that full moon, or since the last time. Because if those smallmouth pull up, or those largemouth, either one, the largemouth will move off the bed a lot of times, but smallmouth won't. So those smallmouth, if they're up there and they spawned in 5 foot of water, and then all of a sudden they raise it 3 foot over the next week, week and a half, they're going to be in 8 foot of water. So a lot of people go down through there thinking, "Oh man, they're 5 foot deep." No, they're 8 foot deep now. So,
well, see, and like, and one reason why I was asking you about like what do you look for and stuff like that, because like I'll go down to Lanier, and it seems like, I mean, at Lanier, all you have to, it sounds a whole lot easier than what it is.
No, trust me, I fish those North and South Carolina herring lakes, and you can go down there and catch a lot of fish real fast, real easy compared to up here.
They just disappear. Right, they disappear. So I mean, you're following the bait, but like 1 minute in which Jerry, we were talking about it when he brought his grandson Hunter up and fished. What was it, Blue Ridge, Jerry, that y'all went this past winter?
Yeah, Hiawassee. Yep. Yeah, Hiawassee also.
And he was talking. That's one thing that he was talking about was following the bait. But then they got onto some stripers, and then Hunter was just tearing up some stripers.
Yeah.
So.
And that's the thing. These bass live in deep water, and again, it's one of the reasons why for me. So I remember, like I said, before forward-facing sonar, I'd find these fish. I'd take swim baits. This is back when the swim bait craze, not the hard swim bait, but you're bigger, you're like bass tricks and that sort of stuff. You're bigger, 5-6 inch. And so you would see them on 2D sonar chasing those shad. You'd kind of drive over them. And a great way to find, oh man, I'm about to give you one of my real secrets here. Now you can tear stuff up, so be careful. You can tear stuff up. There's tattletale fish, okay? So let's say you see a bank and you think, man, they ought to be right here. But like on Cherokee, there's all these big rocks and big crevices, right? So what you do, or maybe on South Holston, you got a point that you want. You still go graph that, because 90% of the time, based on water clarity, and my rule on water clarity is if it's 5 foot, I'm looking 10 to 15 foot below that. So if I got 5 foot, I'm looking 5 to 15, 20 feet. And so I will literally, I know we talk about how bass are scared of boat noise and all that, but there's always the dumb one in the bunch, right? There's always that dumb one who's going to tell on his buddies. And so I'll truck down a bank, almost scrubbing the paint off the side and using my down image or side image, and I'll cut my side image on just one side and really tweak it in to where I'm only showing the bank side and maybe 5 or 10 foot out to the side. But you almost always, you'll drive over and you'll see one little bass just in this spot, and he'll be sticking up. And you're like, okay, there's my tattletale bass. He done told on everybody else. There's fish right there. And so you can turn back around and give him a little bit, start fishing a few feet, before you get there. And then you can turn that sonar on there, that forward facing, and run something over top of it. Now, to make it even easier now, one of the things that I like to do is pick up an A-rig, don't care what time it is, or a jerk bait or a spinner bait, and I'll go down a bank And I've got a little setup on my boat where I can take my live scope and I'd set it in a um, in a oh gosh, what, a turret, and I'll just set it at about 45 degrees, and I'll just go down the bank making that cast, running that bait a foot off. A swim bait is great for it, and then they'll come
Right.
up and show themselves. So now you can come back. They may not want that moving bait, but you can come back, throw a jig or a soft plastic or a Ned rig or a Carolina rig. You're locating, right? So, but that tattletale bass will help you out a lot because 90% of the time, most anglers, seasoned anglers, we know what looks good, and even us guys that are just starting out, we'll look at something and be like, man, there'll be some fish on that, and there probably is. Listen to your gut on that. Now, I ain't telling you you're gonna catch the biggest bag in the lake, but you're gonna have a good time.
Right. Now, Jerry, do you have any questions?
No, I'm listening to what he's saying, and a lot of that's true. I really
Yeah.
like what he said about the 45 degree because we use our forward facing like that going down a bank, and man, it gives you a good vision of what's ahead of you, and
Yeah,
you find fish really quick with that. That's good
yeah,
advice.
yeah.
Yeah.
And it eliminates a lot of water too.
Uh huh.
You know, if you're going down the bank and you're not seeing a bunch of stuff. Now, one of the things, like I've always been a big moving bait guy, swim bait guy. You know, if I find a spot that looks really juicy, and during September now, right now it's jig season to me. You know, in these, I mean, it's always jig season, but in these highlands reservoirs, two things happen. I seen a biologist talking about Cherokee one time, and he was talking about how um, the bigger crawfish molt twice a year. First, a little bit after they come out and they start feeding, and next, right around the or the new moon in September. And you've got two things that happen in September. The water's dropping, so the crawfish are coming with them. And you get that new moon where those bigger ones feel a little more comfortable. And now you can throw a nice jig in those areas that, and I always tell people, they're called mud bugs for a reason. I think a lot of people think about rock, but you want to make sure there's mud. There's, a lot of times, man, how many times have you walked down a creek bank and there ain't no rock around, but there's some crawdad holes in that soft, muddy bank?
Mm-hmm.
Don't discount those red clay nothing banks now. You'd be real surprised. Uh, but, you got to cover a little more water on those. Uh, but, it's that time of year because they're coming down. And I always tell people, for me, I'm also looking for those shad. I'm looking for those shad. And those bass in Highlands Lakes, they really don't mind to pull out.
Yeah.
And even largemouth, like the lake that I was talking about that reminds me of Dale Hollow a lot, the little lake over here in Virginia. I mean, I can literally take you right after right after the shad hatch and they start pulling away from the bank, you get these huge schools of largemouth. I mean, we're talking 30 to 150 bass just cruising out there together. And, that lake, I mean, like during the summertime, the night tournaments, and I've got this on video. During the night tournaments, it was taking them like 12 to 13 pounds to win a night tournament. We were putting 12, 13, 16-pound bags together at 1 o'clock in the day on top water. So they'll pull out. So if they disappear 90% of the time, if that water's dropping, they're going to suspend. If it's if it's raising, give it a couple of days, they'll move to the bank. But they'll tend to be. I always follow that kind of 3-day rule. If the water raises, fish the old shoreline because that's probably where they're at. And then 3 days after that water raises and stabilizes, they'll move up there. They'll probably do it a little quicker than that, but
Right. Well, a question says, which do you prefer, rock ledges or down trees in these big bodies of water?
Every lake is different. So one of the little lakes I grew up, I call it Top Secret Lake P fishing. There's laydowns everywhere. but they will stack up on ledges in the summer in about 4 or 5 places. I mean, 100, 200 bass. They'll just be out there in this spot. They like it.
Right.
I think the reason they like it is because there's a lot of gizzard shad there. Because gizzard shad, something that a lot of people don't think about, is gizzard shad are called gizzard shad because they have a gizzard, which means what are they doing? They got to have some rock put in there. And their mouths actually turn down, so they feed on bottom. They don't school necessarily up like threadfin or alewives do up here in South Holston. So those bigger shad, those bigger bass I think are there. Now, this time of year, one of the things that they will do is they'll pull off the transition. In Highlands, they're out in open water. Like they have it completely, they've kind of scattered out a little bit. They've already started moving, of course, and that'll break them up a little bit. You'll still see a couple of schools here and there, but they'll also go straight to those laydowns and those trees and that wood. Right. So, drag a big worm through there. Something that I've been doing is I've been taking those, we kind of discovered this last year in the video that actually dropped today. You'll kind of see us doing that. We started taking those weedless Ned heads and using them as jigging minnow heads and throwing on a heavy spinning rod and working it through the standing timber and right down inside that. Man, during the fall, if we see them in that tree, I mean, you can go over there and get some to come up and whack them because it's just so small. And a lot of times in a Highlands reservoir, what they do, something that we used to do, or I used to do a lot, is you'd find this tree and it would come down the bank and it'd get down there in about 20 feet of water. And then the brush, the top of the tree, which is now laid down, there would be a huge gap under it. And you'd see all these fish up under it tight. So we used to throw big long leader drop shots, right into the trees. Power shots, really. Well, now you just take, that little jig minnow, throw it right over in there, just shake it right through that tree. So, I mean, that's another good way to catch a few of them. But most of them so far that I've found in the trees this year, so far have been the smaller fish for me. So, a lot of crappie already in the trees over there too. So,
right. Well, I know that I can't tell you how I think it's probably 7-8 years or something like that, maybe longer than that I've been following you. And
thank you.
And one thing that I really enjoy and about your videos, Hank, is if there's some kind of new technique that is coming out and I want to learn that technique, I'm like, first place I go to is because I know 9 times out of 10 you're going to have a video and of whatever I want. And one of the biggest videos that helped me out the most was the free rig video that you done. That video was a phenomenal video. And can you talk about the free rig a little bit for people that may not know what that is?
So I use a free rig. I don't use it to me. So, okay. This is why I'm such a horrible tournament angler. Okay. Because I get so bored so quick throwing the same things all the time. So it makes me a horrible tournament angler, right? But I love to experiment. And I remember seeing the free rig and I remember thinking, well, Texas rig, free rig. But then sort of the light went off in my head and I was like, oh man, that's a target bait. I'm like, people are really fishing the free rig wrong. I'm like, and there's no, I always hate saying that. I'm like, look, if you're catching them on a Carolina rig buzz bait and they're eating the, blade off of it, you are doing it right. So don't ever let anybody tell you you're doing it wrong. But when I look at that, I thought, man, let's put a heavy weight on that. Let's target fish just a little bit heavier than you need so that when the bait drops, you've got a floating bait, so you got some sort of last hook or like a Z-Man worm. So the bait is causing resistance. You've got that polished ring, so you got a little heavier weight, so it's dropping faster, and it drops and then it just hangs there, kind of like a reverse drop shot. But then if you do it just right, you can leave it right by that, you know, uh, dock pylon or that stump or that piece of standing timber. If you do it just right, you can lift your rod until you feel it hit and then feed it line. Just shake it a little bit. And when you shake it a
Yeah.
little bit, what it does is it gets that hook free. And I always try something I've learned. I don't think I put in the videos. I'll put a couple of bobber stops on there so that it hits that and then it just bounces right back up. And you shake that line a little bit and it'll float right back up. Now you got to really get your hook size right, your weight right, you know, and it's always better to go a little heavier than you think you need to. And
Yeah.
it's really something that will sit in front of bass and just drive them nuts. But
Right.
but I think that's like, I mean, a swim bait, you know, one of the last tech, like you know, Z-Man, Nico Baits makes some. You know, you swim it down, and when you pull it, you hit it real hard. You got to really learn to feel that sort of. And when it hits on the bottom, it'll just right back up.
Yeah.
And so it's really a deadly kind of spot fishing technique to me.
Well, because like I had heard about the free rig and I had the basic concept of it, and that video really kind of changed my mindset on really how to, and then how to approach fishing with it.
Yeah.
And with that being said, like now, like I'll go to like docks that's got the pylons and stuff like that, and you're able to focus in on one pylon and not even have to worry but really about the bait moving really off of the
Yes.
pylon.
Yes.
So it's just sitting right there in front of their face. And I mean,
And
I have
you being a river rat, imagine in some good current what you can do with that.
oh
So
man, and it's crazy, and I because I tell people like I've had people ask like, well, how do you do this, and how do you use this bait and stuff like that, and I always will send them to you, and I tell them go check out BassGeek or Fluke Master, because both of y'all break things down so well that and I tell people, I'm like, it's the Cliff Note version for dummies to how to take fishing.
yeah.
And so but I was like, you'll learn so much stuff, and like little tips and tricks that I'm over here when I see your videos, I'm like, Hank, what are you doing? Telling that. And
Yeah.
and I mean, that's just like your fluke videos and stuff. I really enjoy watching that because that's one thing. I don't think that I utilize the fluke enough in the arsenal.
Oh, dude. So
Uh,
there's so many different good versions out there. You know,
yeah,
like I love a fluke. Who doesn't love a Zoom fluke? But you know, another one that I love a lot, and some of it is partly the color because of the clear lakes that I fish, but it's also got a lot of sand and
yeah,
got a lot of salt in it, and that's the caffeine shad, especially that junior, the 4-inch version, because it
right,
sinks. You know, almost 90% of the time, if I'm fishing what I would consider a fluke the traditional way, skipping it into some laydowns, twitching. I've almost always got some sort of belly weight on it because of how deep the water is and how deep the bass are. And then, you know, then you go to, you know, everything has a purpose. And I always tell everybody, you don't have to have all this stuff. I'm just blessed and I'm lucky and I get to play with all this stuff. And it's just always been what I love about fishing is
yeah,
getting out there and having a problem. Like, you know, we were on the lake the other day. And so this is a lake that, you know, we fished and we were talking about the ledges on this lake. And, we've caught a lot of them on jigs over the years. And then the jig bite's kind of gone away. And then with swim baits and big underspins and, and that bite kind of went away. And then all of a sudden I figured out how to call them up using a head and spook and catching them on top water. And that bite went on for about 3 years. And then everybody started doing it. Now you can't get them to touch the top water. And so then the minnow bait come along and, oh man, we destroyed them on that. And then all of a sudden now everybody's doing that. So now,
Yeah.
and so now, we were out there the other day and an old school technique come to me. You're going to like this, an old school technique. This is something that they use in the herring lakes a lot. And it come from the herring lakes. You put a heavy swivel on about 2-3 foot up. That heavy swivel acts as a weight. You put that fluke out there. You got it. Again, it's a balancing act. You got to get the right weight because how much you want it to stay under versus how much you want it to pop across the top. And then, so those topwater bass that won't hit a topwater now, you throw that out there, you put your rod tip down, you reel it, and that thing will come through the water like this and then pop and pop and pop. Well, that's an old herring lake trick that I learned, from fishing with some guys from South Carolina way back in the day. And them fish went like I had never seen it before. So, and it's always just for me coming up with different ways to fish different baits to solve different problems. Because I don't have enough money to have the molds made to make a bait to do what I want. So,
Well, but the thing is it's not stupid if it works, right?
Yeah, that's like I said. Hey, man, if you're rocking them on a Carolina rig buzzbait, you're doing something right.
I guess so. We got another question that popped up. They want to know, what's your favorite bait when you're using forward-facing sonar?
Probably a topwater, to be honest with you. Like, that's something that I've learned during the summer. A topwater for me, during the summertime, those bass will come out there, especially a largemouth. And I fish predominantly for largemouth during the summertime. In that clear water, it goes right back to kind of my rule of if you've got 20-foot visibility, they're going to be right at that line, 20, 25, 30, right? And that's what we've kind of learned. We've kind of found that rule actually is very correct. Now, that's in open water. Everything changes if you got grass or cover, right? Rock, something that the bass can hide behind, ambush behind. That changes everything. A line of sight changes everything for a bass. But if we're talking about truly open water and there's not a lot of cover, not a lot of visual obstructions, those largemouth get very picky. Like, you can throw a minnow bait and we'll run through 20 minnow baits and get maybe 1 or 2 bites. But something, until they get used to that cadence and that sound, like right now I'm trying to find minnow baits that maybe are a little different, that are silent, that are clear, so that I can, man, you wouldn't believe how hard it is to find a silent walking bait. You wouldn't believe how hard it is to find that.
Because all of them kind of have at least a one knocker in it.
One knocker, like, which to me in clear water, the one knocker is the deal, right? But I think what that does, and what I've kind of discovered, is it creates, even in the dead slick calm bluebird sky days, if you're on a lake that maybe hasn't seen this a lot, it creates its own breakup of the water, right? And those bass just can't stand it. They have to come up. They don't have a hand to go, let me see what that is. So they're going to put their face on it a lot of times. Now, they just barely going to put their face on it. They're going to come up, and it ain't, a lot of times those largemouth, when they're picky, they're going to come up and just go, and that's going to be it. So you better make sure you hang on, because if you ain't got sharp hooks, you ain't got no fish.
Now, do you use like any kind of dyes or anything like that when you're fishing?
Yeah, I will. So if it's lead, I've been using this. Oh, I'm not sponsored by this company, but I just had to get some of this because my other tube was out, and he makes a lot of different colors, but this is the let me move the right way. And this is the jelly. It's got a little bit of sin on it, which I like, but overall it's got like silver flake and tungsten flake in it. So, and I will say, I listen, I will throw a ledge head lure, 3/4 ounce big ledge head lure head on a swim bait, but it's lead. But I have harder time seeing that even on my forward facing. I run my forward facing hot uh, than I do seeing a little tiny minnow. So we get in that argument. It may just be my eyes, but this
Yeah.
company also makes this in several different colors, like black and green and blue and red. So it's pretty cool to be able to kind of. But I'll tell you what I do. I take Sharpies most of the time. I've got a whole array color of just Sharpies. Now
Right.
they'll wipe off, so you got to kind of pre-do it. But something that I've learned, so those smallmouth on South Holston, I mean, everybody's a good, Demiki rigger on that lake. And that lake, those smallmouth, they can recite the number, to every minnow bait coming and going because they've seen it before forward facing sonar ever got invented.
Exactly.
And the thing about it is I've even got to where, like, I'm not going to say what color, but alewives in that lake's got a special color to them. And I'll start painting those silver heads certain colors and even putting black spots if they don't have eyeballs on them.
Right.
And I just, and it,
That's on the lead head, right?
that's on a tungsten head. Just depends, who it is. I just think those eyes, man, they just really in that clear water, they can get such a good look at it, especially if it's just sitting there in their face for 5 minutes,
Right.
Which, smallmouth and spotted bass, they're a little more like just, I don't care, I'm eating it. But, like anything, if they've seen 100,000 of them, bouncing around, they get tired of it. They start to get away from it.
Yeah. Well, the reason why I asked is because you was talking about like throwing that little shaky swim bait and stuff like that, and
We're not talking about that. I didn't mean to talk about
but I would. My thing is though is like I've thrown them and it's at times it is so hard to see them on the forward facing sonar, and Jerry actually got me in on like the Spike It Sonic Coat. Jerry, can you talk a little bit about like because
now see
him and Hunter has done a video on that Sonic Coat. And it's just amazing to what. But can you talk a little bit, Jerry, about that Sonic Coat?
Yeah, I can, and I can also talk about something else about the jig color. It's funny he uses markers. Spike It actually has powder coating in little bottles, and with a cigarette lighter, you can heat it up, dip it in, and hit it a couple times, and man, that stuff stays on. You can get any color you want. So we use that a lot. The Sonic Coat, there's 3 types. There's an aerosol, then there's a brush on, and then there's a gel, like kind of like the tube you held up. And what I really like about the gel is it has natural ingredients like parts of fish and stuff in there for scent. So even if you're not using forward facing sonar, just putting it on your bait will give a scent trail out there. But it's amazing how it works. It sticks really well to it. We took a little Ned rig, and at 90 feet out, it looks like a glowing softball.
Wow.
Yeah, it was amazing. And we've been through all the different ones, and I haven't seen the one you just had. That must be a newer one. But we've been through 3 different ones that we know of, and nothing beat the Sonic Coat. The gel is probably Roland Martin and I's favorite one because it's real quick. You put it on, throw the bait. The brush on, you got to wait a little bit for it to cure, and the spray, same thing. What's cool about the spray is it's colored, and you can actually change the
Right.
color of a jerk bait. And at the end of the day, you can wipe it off and bring the jerk bait right back.
That's cool. I'm gonna check that out. That sounds really interesting because I'm always looking because my favorite swim bait head on my soft swim baits it's a lead head, and the bigger ones like the 6 inches. And it can be, when I'm throwing that down, 25, 35 feet, it can be, way out there. It can be hard to see coming. And so it's always something I like putting, something that's got a little something that'll give it. So yeah, man, if it glows that much, I'm definitely giving that a try.
I'll
And
I'll be in your area at the end of October, and if you haven't gotten it by then, I'll bring some up, and you and I can meet. Well, right now I'm sitting on Lake Seminole in Georgia. I'm not even in Florida right now.
Yeah.
I'm practicing for my grandson's tournament this weekend. But I go to Chickamauga after this, and then Douglas after that. But I'll get with you. I'll bring all that stuff, man. The powder coating, all the sprays and everything, and we can play with that stuff if you want.
Yeah, I'd love to.
Okay,
It's,
we can do that.
but what was it called?
it's a
Sonic Coat?
Sonic coat
Sonic coat. Yeah.
made by Spike It.
The
Yep.
Spike It, I got to meet. Were you down there? Were you at ICAST with them?
Yeah,
I think we met down there. I kept looking at you going, man, you look familiar.
Yeah, yeah. Roland Martin and I actually went together, and then we left from there and went to film a little bit down at Headwaters from there.
Yeah,
We had the Spike It wrap truck and boat outside.
yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see, who was it? Henry. A good friend of mine from South Carolina, short little old guy with black hair, brought me over and introduced me to you guys. He's a real good friend of mine, older gentleman.
Good, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll definitely hook up with you and we can go. But man, I'll tell you, any little advantage that we can do these days is incredible. And you almost have to have an advantage over the competition because everybody's becoming really tech savvy. And the one bit of information I tell people is when you're bass fishing, you kind of got to look at it like you're deer hunting and stuff. Where are they going to be hiding? You got to be quiet. I'm going to be the first to tell you, forward facing sonar is changing. Whereas you get within 60 feet of them, they know you're there and they're starting to scatter on you.
Yes.
So it's not as easy to use anymore as it was.
No, it's not. I had a talk with my buddy who owns Ledgehead Lures just today, actually, and we were talking about how much how much tougher it's getting to catch those open water fish.
Mm-hmm.
And here lately, I've been looking more on the bank and on these places and trying to kind of incorporate that into the plan, kind of going back to the start, right? Yeah, so
right.
It's pretty interesting.
Yeah. The other crazy thing is some of the baits, like everybody knows the Sakamata shad's probably one of the most sought after baits.
Yeah.
We actually, my grandson's 13, he pours them and he can't keep up with the orders. We saw a company out of Alabama throw one bag up on an auction, and a guy in California bought it for $71, that one bag.
Yeah.
I mean, it's getting out of control, guys. This is crazy.
It is. It is.
Yeah.
I'll tell you something else. I'll give you another little tidbit. When you talk about one of my favorite, and of course, minnows. There's all kinds. I've literally got a tote that would block me out. Just full of different ones. But I'll tell you something that a lot of people don't use, and it's great when they kind of. So when you get out there and they're kind of grouped up, it's just like ledge fishing, right? You want them grouped up, and then you spread them out. And they kind of quit eating. Well, something that's great to pick up then is a little spoon. And in Clearwater, what I'll do is I buy those. Oh crap! Who makes them? Crank wraps.
Oh, okay.
The kind of realistic looking little stickers that you can put on. So sometimes I'll want a little flash, so I'll just put it on the outside, or sometimes on the inside. And if I'm not throwing a big spoon, I'll do this with a big spoon too, if they're feeding on those. But even the smaller ones, like Nichols makes a Mojo spoon. I think it's like a half ounce.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll put that fish scale sort of lifelike sticker on there, and man, you throw that sucker out there, and they'll follow it. If you got 2 or 3 at different levels of the water, maybe a couple feet apart, and that thing starts going down, here they all come. Well, guess what you just did? You just created competition.
There you go. Game on.
Yeah. Well, we throw, or I throw like a lot of little Cleos and stuff around here. So That's been one of my favorite. That and a flutter spoon, we will throw quite a bit.
I think a flutter spoon is probably one of the least talked about. Real good forward-facing sonar baits on the market right now.
Yeah. Yeah, throw that flutter spoon, tie that sucker up as like a Carolina rig, and just slow roll that sucker.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That Mojo spoon is just a small flutter spoon, and
Right,
about
right.
a 2.5 inch. Of course, they make the 3 inch and a 4 inch. I just make a cast out there with it, and just free spool and watch it fall. And then I just give it little jerks, so it'll just shoot up just barely past them. Oh, it drives them insane.
Oh yeah, and that's, to me, that's the most fun with forward-facing sonar that I've had, is throwing a spoon, and you'll see them like on Nickajack. I got allergies been messing with me
Don't feel bad. You've seen me mute and cough every few minutes.
Right, but to watch the smallmouths is like, you might just see one of them, but then once you throw and you pop that little spoon up, and then you just see the bottom just kind of go, whoop, and you're like,
yeah,
we are fixing to get going.
You just woke them all up with that cast.
Oh man, it is.
Speaking about spoons is something, you're right, that people don't talk about. Have you guys ever noticed that if you cast a spoon more than a 45 degree and hook a fish, those fish tend to throw the hooks on you? Anything 45 degrees or less, you can usually put in the boat. Out beyond that, you have a good tendency of throwing the hook. We've noticed that because we
I'll
throw
have to pay
spoons.
attention to that now.
Yeah, watch
I
that.
make some pretty long casts with flutter spoon. Now a jigging spoon, no, not so much.
Yeah.
So have either one of you got into the sort of horizontal sort of walking baits like the BR head and fish from Duo, or the jaw dropper is another good one from what is it? First Gen, but they're owned by P-Line.
P-Line. I have not personally thrown them. I had a buddy of mine to come in the boat, and he was throwing it.
Now, what I've slowly discovered on those baits, and then I've got these little small ones from Jackal. They're a hard bait. You can actually do the same thing with the the finisher. I believe is what it's called, from Berkeley. Is that right? Little man, that's that little 3 inch is a good one. But I'll tell you, man, something that I've learned about those, they're not as good in open water unless you got a little stain to it, but they're real good around those brush piles, because it's almost like a walk the dog, but it's got kind of this up kind of arch action. And so you start bringing it down a bank, contouring it, like you said. I was on South Holston and kind of run it down this little ditch edge. And holy cow, I seen that tattletale fish sitting over there, and I threw that over there and started walking it down that bank, and here they come, and I was like, oh my God, there's 40 fish right there.
And that's to me, that's the most exciting, is when you see that. Like, it just looks like the bottom of the lake just rises up, and I'm like, oh man. So what has been, I know you got a box of stuff that was that you had ordered from that you seen baits from iCast. So what has been your favorite bait that you have gotten that you've seen at iCast?
Gosh, that's pretty tough. Let's see. Hold on. I think I might have one right here. I don't know where I put it. If you've seen this floor, oh, you can, can't you? Look at that mess.
Yeah,
no. I'm trying not to get a hook in my hand. I'm excited about this because I'd mentioned it to them. Here, I'll take this out. And that is a good color right there. when they come out with them. And this is, I don't know if you've seen the Booyah Flash. What are they called? I
Yeah.
didn't get the name right. Flashpoint. Yeah. And so the thing about these are jerk baits. And they got the weight transfer system. Well, they finally come out with juniors. And so what I like is even without forward facing sonar, you got this a little bit of extra flash on the head when they come through. Now they come through, they work a whole lot like everybody's favorite, the Mega Bass, right? 110. So they're very much like this. They're lighter. That's the one thing I learned the hard way. These are a lot lighter, even the full size. So, you got to have the right rod and reel. But the deep divers, I'm super. I haven't tested these, but these are one of the ones that they sent out that I'm really, really excited about.
Is that the one that the chamber in them where they put the like the little BBs and stuff in, that they made it a little bit bigger so it makes that the jerking action kind of a little bit more of a darty?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
So I'm pretty excited about that. I'd got to fish them last year, and was really surprised with how well they were. But then I kind of got on the fall jerkbait bite a little late on South Holston, and so kind of missed most of it. But they went deeper on me. But yeah, man, that's one that that's probably one that I'm most excited about. There's a lot of good baits, a lot of fuzzy stuff and all that.
Yeah. Now, everybody at iCast had a fuzzy dice somewhere, didn't they?
Oh my God.
They was hairy balls, hairy dice, hairy, things we won't say, but
everybody jumped on that bandwagon. That's for sure.
Oh, it did not take long at all, did it?
No, and I'm gonna say something that we haven't discussed for those that are into the forward facing sonar. There's a video out there on Roland's page, Roland and I out there, and we're doing the forward facing, and I'm throwing a KGB $200 glide bait, and I smack a 7.5 first and a 5.5 second, and the hottest thing I seen at iCast is the Spro K rig.
Yeah, that is crazy. That was crazy.
That thing's like 7 ounces. You know that?
Yes.
It's
I will say. Now, listen. I love to throw. I've got a ton of them around here. I love to throw the hard swim baits. I like that sort of late winter into spring, and then we're getting close to that time right now. Once they start getting in those trees, I like to throw them. But who else would it? Shimano had one. It was one of their flash. And it clicks. Now, I haven't tried one. I don't have one. Got to kind of wonder how well it works. But it clicks. So the difference between what I call a chop bait. So like the Chad Shad. So I've got several of his actual Chad Shads. That's a chop bait. You can get it real tight. And then you've got the wide glides, the ones that really – you're covering some water with. So I'm interested in seeing if that's broke, because apparently you can adjust it to where it'll do one or the other. And supposedly when you cast, it folds in half. I don't know about all that, but we'll see.
Right.
Man, Colin, did you read Michael's comment same time I did? Because you laughed.
Yeah, I seen that, and it was. Yeah, Michael Bradley says, if I have to resort to the fuzzy dice, I think I'll take up quilting.
Okay, wait a minute, though. I'm going to show you something.
Hey. You got one of them round ones from Spro?
This is the Koike, and I did a video actually on this.
Who's that from, Spro?
It's so the what is the name of this? Gosh, hold on a minute. Forgive me. It's a Japanese company that Spro is, I guess, their importer or whatever. It's hide up tackle. But what I like about these is they float. So you take like a little Ned rig or something like this, that's got and you just put a hook through it, and it just sets on bottom like that right there. And when you pull it, you're tied down here. It does this really weird little. I'm always going the wrong way on the camera. This sort of, and so it's pretty neat. And
Is that set up like a
everybody.
Tokyo rig top deal?
Yeah, it's kind of like that's the hook. Let me get it. I'm always going the wrong way. See how you just got the hook stuck through the middle there, and so you do it with a Ned too. But when you pull it, it'll kind of pop up and just kind of, and it's got this sort of weird little action. Anyway,
right.
But this too, since it floats, you get a little hook like this, and you get just enough weight to be able to cast it a little bit. And when they won't touch the top water, just this little thing going across the top, you wouldn't believe how many fish will come up and eat that.
Let me tell you what we found, because we do a lot of swimming pool testing, and then we take it out on the water.
Mm-hmm.
And we found when they're round like that, when you throw them out, they just sink straight to the bottom.
Now this will float. This one's made of that sort of Z.
No, but I'm saying if you do put a weight under it and let it sink,
it'll
it won't do like a cube does and flutter.
Yeah.
And we actually went and poured some rectangles, and we've been setting them down like a diamond. So we've been putting the strands to the corners at 45 and 6 strands to the face. Man, when that thing goes down, it flutters. The diamond one hardly ever makes it to the bottom. It gets eaten on the way down.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
That's got all this action to it.
You didn't even, I hadn't even thought about like just the different shapes causing the bait to do. That's pretty neat. That's pretty
the round ones. The round ones have a tendency of just going straight to the bottom.
Yeah, they have.
The other ones just kind of drift around.
That round has less resistance.
Exactly. Displaces less water.
I could see that.
And I guess that will work. Like especially if you got like some smaller fish that's like, let's just say in 7-8 foot of water, but there's some bigger fish that's maybe in 10 to 12, and you're trying to get that through. That the round one, I guess, would work better to at least get it through the smaller ones. I'd say, right?
I'd say so.
Trying to get it down there faster, I guess.
We're getting ready to get a little crazy because we have some NDAs, non-disclosure agreements, and some of the stuff that we're throwing off camera and not in tournaments is pretty wild, man. And we're getting ready to get real crazy with some baits. And I'm going to tell you guys, unfortunately, most of these ideas are coming out of Japan. 2 of the ones we're playing with right now are out of Japan.
I've got I can talk about it now, but it's called Drink Crazy, a company out of Japan. A guy that works for them who used to work for Duo sent me this new bait. I don't have it in here, I don't think. No. And so it's called Bassmaster. He wanted me to wait until they did their article, but Bassmaster Magazine just released an article. It's called Quiver Trapping. And it looks like a kind of a hybrid between they've got a hard bait version and they've got the soft bait version, and it kind of looks like between a swim bait and a jerk bait. So it's just got this tail that kind of, and so the way you hook it, as you shake the bait on top, it kind of swims away from you.
Okay.
So and it stays on top. So I've been playing around with that a little bit too, and it's pretty fun.
So it kind of works like what do they call that? Credge? The one
the
credge
is supposed to, but I think a lot of people fish that credge wrong.
A credge really should be fished, or really is designed to be fished more like a riser, like a jackal riser. You can jerk it, but it'll come straight up. But really, what you want to do with Credge is throw it out there and just work it. And you can even
All
get
right,
it to
that's what I was
wake.
about to say.
You can get it to
When
wake.
you go on a blue heron lake and with a Credge, and you just burn that sucker back to you, and just hold on.
So basically, you take, and what it does is it lays on its side like this.
Uh-huh.
You take the hook comes about right through here.
Uh-huh.
And so what you do is you shake it, but I guess because of the way the bait's made, you've got that resistance in the water. So instead of coming straight back at you, it kind of off to the side like that.
Gotcha.
So it kind of stays away from the boat.
Okay, now I'm understanding. I
Yeah.
misunderstood how you said that.
It's pretty interesting. I'll tell you, speaking of those herring lakes and something else that, especially, dude, you need to try this when they start busting, like some of the bigger ones start busting, or you get some grass just not quite. I don't know if I have any of these. No. But it's a 7-inch Demiki armor shad. Take you a beast hook, I think it's a 6/0, just a hook. You might be able to get away with a little bit of weight, but this thing, when it comes through the water, you want to reel it fast. So when you make a cast out there, it looks like a multi-joint swim bait coming through the water, just that that slither. And I mean, you can just reel it as fast as it'll go. And I mean, it is incredible. I mean, I've caught several 2s and 3s on it. So, and bigger bass down there y'all got, they probably eat that up.
Going back to your dice, I see a question Steven wrote. He said, would it work to put that under a float, like a float and fly?
If it sinks, you got to make sure, or that you've got a, that's pretty good, man. Float and fly, a little dice on a float and fly. I ain't never thought of that about that one. That's a good one. But, and your hook weight, if it does float, could keep it down there too. You could really control based on your hook weight, you really could control kind of the fall of the bait too if you wanted to fall. So yeah, that's actually a pretty good idea. Might have to do a video on that. Tell him I said sorry.
Well, Steven, you let the cat out of the bag, man. He's on it now.
Yeah, he's on it.
Coming in December, boy. Sorry.
Yeah, Steven, the next video you're gonna see uploaded is gonna be him showing you that it works.
Floating and hairy ball fly.
Oh, that's not even right.
So, we've had you on for an hour, almost an hour and 10 minutes. He says royalties will be welcome.
Steven, royalties. Yeah, he wants royalties now. Here we go.
So, Steven, if you have not followed Hank and you see his videos and stuff like that, that's all it's going to take is for him to make a video and for him to catch a fish doing that. Yeah. It's done. It is done.
I mean, I ain't no milking. Don't get me wrong.
No, but what was it? I had talked. I think it was at the East Tennessee Expo, and we were talking about something, and you're like, "I got something that I'm doing." He said, and you told me, "I'm holding off on this video until at least a couple months until I get."
Yeah.
So,
that's like, so. If you guys have ever seen The Prank from Booyah, right? Mm-hmm. So I think Zell Rowland designed it. It's been out several years, but they call it The Prank because it's like a cross between a popper and a crankbait. It's got a bill on it. And when you've seen it, literally the video that I done on it is like, I think the title was, this is no gimmick, but it is a prank, was the title of the video.
Yeah.
But, it's those really neat little baits like that you find and everybody looks at. And I always tell people this. Imagine being the first guy to walk by a booth I'm sorry, I forget his name, that invented or kind of came up, one of the first guys that came up with, a chatterbait, right? And you're looking at this jig with a weird blade on it. Now, 90% of the people who ain't out there fishing that are walking by that going, that's the stupidest thing I've ever seen, a jig,
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden it starts winning
same
some
thing with
tournaments.
an A-rig, though, too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, how many people thought that about a Cinco? I know the first time I seen a Cinco, I was like, it is the dumbest looking worm. It ain't going to catch nothing. But I'll tell you what, speaking of rolling, I remember that commercial to this day where he pulls up on the dock and he's talking about those Gary Yamamoto's, and that little kid he catches a bass on that Yamamoto. He goes, "Hey buddy, what are you throwing?" And old Roland goes, "This is a Yamamoto Cinco," and he throws him a pack of. He goes, "How do you work these?" He goes, "You don't work them; they work for you." That's one of my favorite all-time commercials.
Yeah, and the kid finishes with, "Thanks, Mister."
Yeah, thanks, Mister. That's right.
Yeah,
That was a good one. That was a good one.
Well, and I can remember when we had Jerry and Roland on, and we asked him about the Cincos when he got it, and he told us a story that when Gary gave him the Cincos, and correct me if I'm wrong, Jerry, that he told him that this will not catch a fish. He says something, it looked like a pencil or something like that, is what he said.
Yeah.
And he said, this will not catch any fish.
He said, "I don't see no action in this. How the heck's that thing going to work?" That's what he said.
I'll tell you what, I'll never forget when those things first hit the market. I'd played around with the Sluggo. I'm old enough to remember that and remember how good it was. And I remember seeing them and seeing Roland and Gary. That's where I was like, man, I got to buy some of those. And so I got me some. And I'll never forget, me and my son, who's now, how old am I again? 31. He's 31. I got to do the math. I got to subtract 20 years, right? And so we're out there, and he's just a kid. We're out there on this little old trolling motor only lake in my good old 14-foot green, John boat. And it's still early spring. We're throwing. I think we're throwing probably Shakespeare rods on probably like Berkeley smooth casting. It's probably 10-pound, green, low vis green mono. And we're throwing them on 3/0 hooks, just letting it sink forever. It might as well been worm bobber fishing, And we was lighting them up. There's this guy in front of us. He's in this boat. He's got rods hanging out the side. And he's trolling around, and me and my son are just whacking them on those stupid old Cincos, man. It comes a thunderstorm. We get back to the bank, and it starts drying off. All of us get out of our vehicles. He looks at us, and he goes, "Man, what are you catching those fish on?" He goes, "I'm throwing live minnows, and y'all back here wearing them out." I was like, "Here you go, buddy." I was like, "Here's a pack of them." I'm saying, just rig them up on a 3/0, throw it, let it sink to the bottom. I said, "Give it about 3 pops and hang on."
Hey, one of the funniest stories, and I'll try and make this really quick with Roland, was when he had prototypes of the red-eyed shad in the boat.
Oh.
And he's in a tournament on Okeechobee, and he's catching these 3 and 4 pound fish consistently. And the amateur in the back of the boat goes, "Mr. Roland, can I use one of them?" Roland looks at me and goes, "These are prototypes, and I only got 3 of them. But if you're real careful not to lose it, I'll let you borrow one." So he gave it to the guy, and the guy's over there throwing, and all of a sudden out of the corner of Roland's eye, he sees the guy going like this. And he goes, "What do you got going on?" And he goes, "Oh, man, I'm hung up." And he goes, "You what?" He goes, "I got it hung up in a rock or something." And the guy's doing one of these, right? Roland goes, "Well, you were reeling it this way, so we got to get on the other side of it."
Yeah.
So Roland turns the trolling motor up, starts heading for it. He said, "Reel in your slack, reel in your slack." So Roland's looking at him and looking at the line, and he goes, "Hey, we're not gaining on that line. You need to start reeling that line."
Yeah.
The guy weighed in a 1287 bass.
Man.
That's what he had on.
I'm hung on a rock.
and one big fish in the amateur side.
Good
Roland says,
Lord.
I could have used that fish. But the guy's trying to yank it out. He thinks he's got a rod.
He's trying to shake it. Lee. He's like, I better shake this one off.
No, he thought he was in the
Right.
bottom. That guy did everything wrong and still got the fish.
But no, I tell you, circling back around, you were right when you said earlier, you really do have to stay, you got to stay kind of ahead of the game. That's one thing,
Mhm.
I always joke about. I was talking to somebody at a little local tackle shop the other day, and they was joking with me about not going to a certain lake. And I was like, but I told them, I said, that's the one thing, man. I said, I've had guys send me pictures. Man, we won our tournament on .3. You're right. It's loaded, bro. I was like, I didn't
Right.
even say the name of the lake, but like the locals know. And,
Right.
Yeah. I always tell people,
Well, and that's the thing about
you look at it one or two different ways, You can get mad about it, or you can just look at it like, okay, I've got to be better. I got to be ahead of the game. And that's sort of, like you said earlier, about me always, trying something new, trying a different technique, trying to tweak techniques because I have to, I only fish. I'm not a pro. I don't get to fish all these lakes all over the U.S. I fish, a handful of lakes, 4, 5, 6 lakes. And, And so those people are going to be like, "Hey man, did you see old BassGeek? He's catching them on top water. We need to get out there." So
But that's the I mean, with doing like what you do and stuff with YouTube, and which we've all have noticed, like if you go to any body of water, somebody's going to recognize the bank, the dock that you went by, or
the
boat
lay
ramp,
down that's
and it could, oh yeah, they'll recognize that sucker and be like, I know exactly where it is. And then as soon as you get done and that video's up, that next day you're gonna have 3 boats on that place, right? At least.
Yep.
So, let's see. Michael said he got Roland's autograph back in the '80s when he fished BASS on the Hudson River.
I need to tell you about autographs, man. Roland and I were fishing against each other, the Bass Open, and our boats are side by side, and we're in the boats rigging it. And here comes a guy with like 4 kids, and they come up and they go, "Hey, Jerry, hey, Roland, can we get you signed the hats?" So we go ahead and sign the hats or whatever, and can we take a picture? They took pictures of Roland, and off they go. So when they were out of earshot, I started laughing and kept tying my bait, and Roland goes, "What are you laughing for?" I said, "Man," I said, "you just figure out what happened?" He goes, "What do you mean?" I said, "We autographed them hats." He goes, "Yeah, what about it?" I said, "Yeah, these 4 kids and that adult come walking up here with $9.99 hats. They give it to us. We write our autograph on there, make it worth 99 cents, and they leave happier than when they came over here." All we did was scribble on the damn hat.
Yeah.
I said, "That don't make no sense." Yeah.
Yeah. So, but Hank, man, we definitely appreciate you. I don't want to take any more of your time.
I appreciate you guys, man. Thank you for having me on.
And like what I tell people all the time in the lives and stuff that I've done to kind of promote for this week of who we have coming on. It's always, I tell people that, or I told them, I was like, this episode, you're going to be able to learn a lot. It's going to be one of those learning, because sometimes like we'll have guests on and it's just more kind of like a story time type deal. And then sometimes you're going to learn and it's going to be an overload of what you're learning. And so that's what I told him. I said, this episode, when I done the lives today and I knew that you and Jerry was going to be on here, I was like, this is going to be one of the best episodes, because we've got 2 of the people that I know that can explain, that can explain things, and that's going to ask the questions and stuff to be able to kind of help people out. And both of y'all don't mind. I mean, if somebody comes up and asks a question, you're going to answer the question. You're going to be straight up honest. And I was like, this is going to be a learning episode. And that's one thing that I really enjoy when I see you at different shows and stuff like that, and being able to talk to you, just how open and stuff that you are. And then coming on here, I mean, every time you come on here, I've learned something new, and it's always been a blast. So we definitely got to have you on again sometime.
Anytime, man.
And I hope that here at the end of October, you and Jerry can hook
I hope
up.
so. I'm gonna make sure I get him my number there.
Heck yeah!
Yeah, I'll make sure I bring some spiking stuff up too to play with.
That'd be fun. Yeah. I know spiking. Well, anyway, you get me. See, already my mind starts working. I know, man. I know this and this and this.
I'll leave a bunch of it with you so you can play with it after I'm gone.
Oh yeah.
Well, and speaking of spiking, there's in which Jerry didn't hit on really, that blade dip, Jerry. That is something else.
See, I follow. I've been seeing all this lure painting and soft plastic painting videos they've been putting out, and I'm like, I need to be checking some of that stuff out.
That blade dip, the way you can stick it in that neutralizer and wipe it right off at the end of the day and bring it back is amazing.
See, that's
make any color and just bring it right back in a matter of seconds.
Because now I love to throw a spinner bait. I always tell people, I'm like, probably the 3 or the 5 baits that I learned to fish on: Texas rig, a spinner bait, a jig, and a popper and a jerk bait. That's probably my first 5 kind of baits, And man, I'm a huge blade color guy. Depending on the weather and the watercolor. So,
and that blade dip, Hank, you are going to be surprised with it. If
I'll bring some of that up.
Bring some up there.
I will.
Poor Jerry, he's going to come up here. I got a pallet for you out back.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah. You're going to have.
I'm a bum, Jerry.
You're going to have the spiky people on next month too.
Yeah, they're going to come on. I think it's, what was it, the 18th?
14th, I thought. I don't know.
14th, yeah, 14th.
14th.
We're going to have Don and Will come on from Spike It, and we're going to have them. They're going to demonstrate some stuff
That's
for some of their product and stuff like that. But Hank, Jerry's grandson Hunter, that video though, I'm not joking. That Sonic coat, if you see the video, it is phenomenal. I was, to be honest with you, I told you at the beginning, Jerry is my fishing mentor. If I have any kind of questions and stuff like that, that has to do with, pretty much anything, that I can call him up, and I know that he's going to give me the straight up honest. And when he told me that Ned rig popped up like a softball, I was like,
yeah. As soon as he said that, I was like, okay.
I was like,
it was on the video.
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and order some of that. I done decided.
Yeah.
Let's get in order. I got a little list of stuff to order, and it's going on the list. But yeah, that's good, man, that you have a fishing mentor like that. That's the reason. See, that's the reason why I got into doing YouTube, was because I really never had anybody to sort of teach me or go fishing with. My papa, he fished on my mom's side, but he was, I call him a strict meat angler. He was out there with minnows and bringing it home and grilling it up. Not a thing wrong with that. I'm a fat boy. I love to eat. But but I always tell people, man, I watched Bill and Roland, like I said, Hank Parker, and all those guys, and sometimes in these Highlands reservoirs, I remember reading Bassmaster magazine, and I always tell this jokingly, and they're like, what you want to look for in the wintertime is those 45-degree banks. And I'm like, so not the 90s. I'm looking for 40s, because that's all I got. I got this and I got this in the banks. And so some of it didn't really play. And they're like, look for flats. And I'm like, flats? I'm like, it's pretty much dry in the back where the flats are. They're drawing 30 feet.
Yeah.
So, so for me, I always say, I learned the hard way. I learned by beating water, and what I mean by that is you just take a lure and slap it against the water until you figure out when it works, right?
Yeah.
So that's what I want to be. And that's why I started the channel was to, I can't tell everybody how to fish it in every single body of water. I can give them the basics of it to get you started. And then you have to think about your fishery, how you can adjust those things
Exactly.
to fit your body of water or the problem that you're having seeing the fish or what they're doing at the time of year. And that's all I want to do is just help people, like that, like me that maybe didn't have anybody.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's and doing. I mean, in that you will never know like how many people that you've really touched and actually have been able to help. I mean, again with me doing the podcast and
Oh yeah,
YouTube and being and having to go to some expos and that's when the first time that I ever met you was down at ICAST. What
yeah,
was it, 4 years ago?
yep,
And we were at a McDonald's and I walked up to you and I said, well, Hank, and I told him and it's funny that being Tennessee and you're right at the
yeah,
Bristol border
yeah,
that for us to meet, I mean, we had 3 hours. We're 3 hours away from each other, but
yeah.
we had to go 12 hours down the road to be able to meet each
That's
other.
how it is. It's small. Fishing community small, and the fishing world's small too. So that's what
Yeah.
I tell you. When I do finally get out and we get full time, that's one thing I cannot wait to do. Is I don't know how broke I'll be. Probably pretty broke. So I don't know how much, but the plan is to at least every other month to take about a week and just go somewhere. I don't care if I'm sleeping in my truck, which I might
Yeah.
care because again I'm 51, so that might not last long.
Yeah. That old back might
uh,
not appreciate that after a while.
yeah, but I want to go fish some other fisheries. Well known, not so well known. I think that's one of the things that I really want to go do. Yeah, of course, everybody's got their bucket list of really good lakes, but sometimes there's just these little hidden gems. That you just
Yeah.
go hit and be very pleasantly surprised at what you
Well,
find.
there's a lake that I want to take Jerry to when he comes up here to Chickamauga here, in a month, and
Another couple of weeks, yeah.
a couple weeks. When he
Yeah.
comes up here, I want to take him to a lake. I call it Lake X because I don't
Yeah,
want people to know what it is
yeah, yeah.
because it is some big fish and
Wow.
but what and it don't get fished that much because it's a trolling motor only lake.
Yeah, yeah,
And so a lot of people they overlook these little lakes like that
oh, yeah,
because
yeah,
they got these 250, 300s on the back of the boat. They want to run them things. And
yeah.
Yeah. You ain't kidding. Hey, I like to go to
so
Lake X. Just don't tell me you're bringing me to the train station. You're gonna have a damn problem right there.
so yeah, but Hank, I do have one last question. We're gonna let you go. And which we've asked this to you, we've asked this to Jerry multiple times. If you could have one person on the boat fishing for the day, this person can be still with us or have passed away. Who would that be, and why would you want them on the boat?
Golly, I know when you asked me this, I don't even remember who I said last time.
I think you said Aaron Martin last time.
Aaron Martin's is a good one. Yeah, definitely. I've got to meet him, and that was like he's a geek, just like me. But I'll tell you what. You know what I'm gonna have to say as we're getting older, and my dad he don't fish a lot, but I stay real busy. My dad don't fish at all, really, but he mentioned something about wanting to go out, and I'd like to take him out this year, even if he just sits back there and watches. Just have him out on the boat with me. Just so you know, he don't go a lot. He's not big on boats and water. Period. But I think Dad right now. I really, it's been on my mind a lot this year, and I've been so busy that I don't want to take him out there and have to film a bunch of content. I just want to go out there and have a good time and fish.
Just enjoy it.
Yeah, and so man, you're so busy, but yeah, I want to get Dad out before it gets cold.
That's awesome.
So, but again, Hank, man, thank you again, and we're definitely gonna keep in touch because I'd like to head up that way, and I mean, because I think it's like 2.5, 3 hours up to your neck of the woods.
Yeah,
and
from where you are, I'm about like two from like the expo center, where they have the Knoxville.
I'm an hour and 15 minutes from that expo.
So I'm about 250, 245 to there. Of course, that's still a little kind of out of the way,
Right. So, but if you get down to Chickamauga and stuff like that, holler at me and we'll go wet a line. And if we can't catch any fish, we'll start throwing that red stick bait. So, but Jerry, I want to say thank you for coming at the last minute, being able to come on here, brother. It's always an honor to be able to have you on the podcast, just like Hank. And
it's an honor to meet you, sir.
Yeah, it's an honor to meet you also. I'd like to say something before I go. Pappy, can't wait till you get back. Condolences from my family to yours. Yeah. Love you, bro. Love you, bro.
So, but guys, thank you. Next week, let me look at the schedule. We are actually having Colin with line cutters is coming on. So if you have not seen the product line cutters, it's going to be an interesting conversation and stuff, a podcast about the product line cutters. And then the week after that is actually going to be one of the episodes that I'm looking forward to after this episode. We're going to have Colt with Aquaview. That is going to be an episode because that Aquaview, what they're doing with those cameras and stuff like that is phenomenal. And so, but then we've got Edwin Evers, and then we'll go from Edwin Evers to Don and Will with Spike It. And then right after that, we cannot be from Tennessee and not have the legend of Tennessee fishing coming on. We're going to have Mr. Bill Dance come on, or Uncle Bill, with a lot of people calling. And so, but yeah, so guys, that is what we got coming up. I hope to see y'all out on the water. Hank, again, thank you, brother. Thank you, Jerry.
Thank you.
And hope y'all have a blessed one, guys.